Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are going to be taking a sneak peek at an upcoming war game made by Fury Software, published by Slytherin and Matrix Games. This is the newest addition to the Strategic Command franchise, Strategic Command American Civil War. Now, Strategic Command is a turn-based war game that has individual turns take place over 2-week increments. It is an I go, you go system, which means you do your turn, do all of your attacks, then the AI or the opponent does their turn, does all their attacks, and then it comes back to you. So rather than something like War in the Pacific, which has asynchronous resolution, this is basically handing off and doing your things in turn. Now, this is going to be an interesting game, I think, because Strategic Command in the past has been sort of a grand strategic war game, which this is as well. But in the past, they looked at World War I, they looked at World War II, and so they looked at games that wars or conflicts that historically were based along fairly cohesive and large front lines. That's not to say that maneuver warfare didn't play a factor in World War II or in World War I, but it was not the same thing as 10,000 men or 30,000 men, or in the big cases, 70 or 100,000 men maneuvering over the space of a couple of miles. It was always armies fighting across broad fronts. And so this is going to be a different type of a war for them to try and fight using the same game engines. They have made some changes, they've made some tweaks. The map is absolutely huge, which means you are not going to have enough troops to have a cohesive front line from the US East Coast all the way into sort of toward the Mississippi River. There's no way. That being said, I'm still not sure how well the system will model the American Civil War, a war that was known for medium-ish size armies compared to European standards, and fought over battlefields that usually just ranged a couple of miles across. With that being said, that's enough of me rambling. Let's go ahead and jump in here. This game comes out on June 30th, by the way, on Matrix and Slytherin's website, and then I want to say a couple weeks later it'll come out on Steam, so it will be available on Steam eventually. So you can see the game has a hot seat multiplayer, a play by email ++, which is sort of Slytherin's multiplayer system. And then it also has a single player option. We are going to be playing the single player option. Now, the game is going to come with 6 separate scenarios. It has the blue and the gray, which is sort of the grand campaign starting in 1861, April of 1861, and concluding at the end of 1865. It is the Manassas to Appomattox campaign, which starts in the summer of 61 with the initial Union attack toward Richmond. It has the 1862 scenario, which starts in the winter of 62 with the beginning of the Allied, not the beginning, but I guess sort of the beginning of the effectiveness of the Allied blockade just before the seizure of New Orleans. There's an 1862 Trent War campaign, which I'm assuming is if Great Britain jumps into the war after the Trent affair, where some British diplomats were on a Confederate ship, I believe, and they were, or was it was a British ship with Confederate diplomats, and the British ship was stopped and the diplomats are removed. There's a 63 campaign, which looks at the campaign during the summer of 63 following Chancellorsville, essentially the Confederate attack in the east toward Gettysburg, while the Union attacks toward Vicksburg in the west. And then the 64 campaign, which looks at General Sherman's march across Georgia. We are going to do the blue and the gray, the grand campaign. The Confederates go first on this turn. Looks like they go first on all of the games. No. The 62 and 64, the Union goes first. 61, it's the Confederates. I'm kind of torn here. Should we do the 61's April, or should we start with July when the armies are already kind of raised? There are 5 more turns with the spring campaign. I'm kind of tempted to go with the Manassas campaign. It's a little bit shorter, but we've already got armies in the field. Let's do the July campaign. What are the victory conditions here? I assume they're the same for all the major ones. Confederacy will surrender or their fighting spirits below 10%. Union for the same. Union is the same. Minor victories are if you take DC, any three of Richmond, South Carolina, Atlanta, Montgomery, and New Orleans. Oh, sorry. So the Union minor is if they take Richmond, Charleston, Atlanta, Montgomery, and New Orleans. Confederates can take or hold Richmond, Charleston, Atlanta, Montgomery, and New Orleans. At the end of the scenario, I'm guessing. Okay. All right, let's jump in. Who should we play as, Union or Confederates? So the Wisconsin, why, by the way, why is Mexico, would they maybe come in on the side of the US? Maybe the Confederates can have Great Britain, France, or Spain join their side. I think we're going to play as the Union because I'm assuming we'll have the initiative and be able to choose where we attack like that. So we'll do that. We'll play as the Union. We're not going to touch any of these settings. And let's get started. Napoleon III was trying to talk the British into intervening in, I don't know about Mexico, but he did. Napoleon was sympathetic to the Confederates, but he was unwilling to go in the war and support the Confederates without the British. So he basically, every time the Confederates approached the French, Napoleon was basically like, I can't act without the British. Okay, so Confederate turn goes first. Not sure what they're going to do first or not. You can see we've got some troops at Harper's Ferry. We've got some troops in and around Washington. McDowell is the headquarters near Washington. Banks near Harper's Ferry. Looks like there's also some Confederate naval activity on the Mississippi. We'll have to see how best to blockade the enemy because the blockade is certainly important in the game. You can see our cavalry is attacking our troops near Harper's Ferry. Combat appears to be the same as in the other strategic man games. So again, it's going to be kind of weird in a sense because you're going to have like somewhat spread out frontages. I'm curious to see how aggressive the Confederates are going to be. They're attacking Springfield, Missouri. They're attacking at Alexandria. Like, is this really just going to turn into a World War I style front line with both sides attacking each other every single turn? Or are the Confederates going to sit back and wait for us to come attack them? I would kind of think it would be the latter, but so far they've been pretty aggressive at probing out toward our lines. Now these are small units. I believe these are brigade size units. The game includes units that are anywhere between brigade, division, or corps size, and that influences how strong the individual units are. California Governor Dowie begins recruiting volunteers for the Union. The Confederacy signs a treaty of friendship and alliance with the Seminole Nation. So they're going to join the Confederacy. El Paso. Union warships in Hampton Roads blockade Norfolk. Haiti begins exporting cotton to the Union. I'm not super familiar with Haitian politics during the American Civil War. Have a good one, Twitch. Okay, so we were calculating supply here. You can see here, right, some commerce raiding along the Confederate shipping lanes. Some intelligence on enemy units. Mr. President, the rebels have moved their government to the city of Richmond. While the move was made in no small part to recognize the industrial importance of Virginia to the south. Why am I talking in that accent? I'm playing for the Union. The city now has an additional symbolic value as well. The Confederacy will receive 500 fighting spirit each turn they hold Richmond. It is therefore recommended that you capture Richmond as soon as possible. So, Florida state of Kentucky will be a great importance in our efforts to put down the Southern Rebellion. Although currently neutral, the majority of the state's population sympathizes with our cause, and we can expect them to side with us sometime during the fall, unless invaded by either side beforehand. To prepare for the entry, we should begin deploying troops along the Ohio River, ready to move into Kentucky as soon as they are permitted. In particular, plans should be made to secure the strategically located town of Paducah in the state's west, as well as Louisville and the state capital of Frankfort. While we must be ready to repulse a rebel invasion of Kentucky, I strongly advise against declaring war and invading the state ourselves, as this is certain to cause the state to secede from the Union. Recommendation: position units along the Ohio River to enable a rapid occupation of Kentucky upon the state's entry to the war. Lieutenant General Winfield Scott. And the state of California and Oregon and the Western Territories stand ready to support the war effort. Owing to the great distance and limited infrastructure, the rebels will have no ability to attack these locations directly. You'll receive the income of these regions each turn as supplies and goods are transported over the western trails. Note that if Denver should ever fall to the rebels, we can expect the wagon trains to cease and MPPs they deliver to be lost. While the units already on their way to Colorado and New Mexico territory should be sufficient to maintain control of these positions, additional forces will be released from duties in Oregon should Denver come under direct threat. Maintain control of the Colorado territory. Okay. Oh my goodness, all this strategic advice. The three powerful European nations will also be closely watching our attempts to defeat the rebellion, the United Kingdom, France, and Spain. Beginning in September of 1861, the Europeans will have a chance to increase their mobilization by a small amount each turn if we do not have a unit within 4 hexes of both Richmond and Nashville. With that chance increasing for each additional hex away from these locations, our armies are. These locations have been marked on the map with rebel flags. Furthermore, Europeans may begin to attempt to send supplies to run our blockade, which could lead to further mobilization. To prevent this, ensure that you have at least 1 ship within 2 hexes of the marked locations on the blockade routes, or have captured the associated ports. All 3 European nations have large, well-equipped militaries, so it is vital we convince them to remain neutral at all costs. Under no circumstances should you declare war on a European power, even if they look certain to give direct support to the rebellion. How much reading? The capture of New Orleans, largest city in the South and gateway to the Mississippi River, would significantly improve our chances of defeating the Southern Rebellion. To accomplish this, some of our commanders are proposing that we send an amphibious force escorted by river gunboats up the river to occupy the city. While our coastal gunboats are capable of sailing into the Mississippi directly from the Gulf of Mexico, a greater logistical effort will be required to deploy more powerful river craft, particularly river ironclads, in the southern Mississippi. Deploy river warships in New York for use on the Mississippi River. Okay. Oh my God. This is a lot. Like, the text is probably small for you guys as well. So, in short, I'll be offered a decision event at the beginning of the first turn in which a Union warship occupies this hex. Ooh, we can blow up the levees. Are we done? We're done! Yay! So apparently if we get to a certain hex, we can decide to blow up New Orleans levees. This is a freaking huge map, by the way. What? Okay. Well, that's actually, I really like the art style on this exterior map. But if we zoom in, like, this is gigantic. Bigger than even their European, like, World War II or global maps or anything like that. Whee! What would the Spring Breakers do for the next 120 years if we destroyed New Orleans? Florida looks weird. Maybe a little. The whole map looks a little blocky. All right, so what do we need to do? We need to get troops within a certain radius of Richmond. We also need to get troops within a certain radius of Nashville. Nashville's going to be tricky for a little while because we don't want to advance into Kentucky here because that'll turn the state against us. So we probably want to begin building troops up, I would guess, at places we can cross the river easily. So probably near Evansville and then Cincinnati, I would guess, or maybe Hillsborough, just north there. But essentially we want to be able to move down quickly and take Frankfort, Louisville, and then also Paducah, which is over here. So actually Metropolis City down here near Cairo, and then I would guess New Albany and near Covington. That's where I think would make the most sense. So I have to begin building troops up. We're not going to go for Nashville right away. I think it's interesting that It's interesting that apparently the game considers Nashville important to the Europeans. I don't think that's probably true. But whatever. This is the Confederate capital. And it is July. Okay, so first things first. Fighting spirit is sort of the national morale of this game. The Confederacy starts with 122,000 out of a base of 120,000. It's at 101%. And then the United States starts with 99,899 of a 100,000 base. You got to keep that above 10% in order to prevent surrender. We have troops near Washington, D.C. It looks like these are all brigades under the command of Irvin McDowell here as the headquarters commander. We also have 3 brigades near Harper's Ferry under General, is it really under General Banks? Yes, apparently. Now, one of the interesting things with this game, can you see this text? I think I might need to change the resolution on this. How bad's the text, guys, when I like pull up these boxes? You can't read any of the small text. Straining. Let me do this real quick. There's no reason for me to play this in 1440. Is this better? Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. I was playing in my default resolution, which is I've got a 1440p technically monitor, 2000 by whatever. But I just switched it to 1080p, so still on the bit on the small side, but at least it's legible. All right, like, well, it's best I can do. All right, let's get back into this. Okay, so we can see here we've got Richmond is the obvious objective. They got a fort at Williamsburg. So we've got a couple of things we need to do, which is kind of like I don't really know where to start. Let's go to the world map here. So these are different, I guess, nations, if you will. So we've got the Creek, the Seminole, the Choctaw, and the Chickasaw, all fighting for the Confederates. Or leaning toward the Confederates. No, they're actually fighting for the Confederates. The Osage are leaning toward the Union, and the Cherokee are leaning toward the Confederates. We've also got the Comanche and the Apaches. The Pueblos and the Navajo. That's kind of cool that you've got all the native tribes represented here. You also have relations with Haiti, which is favoring the Union, Mexico, which is favoring the Union, and then you have off-map relations with UK, France, and Spain, all favoring the Confederacy to various degrees. If we take a look at the convoy maps here, you can see all the different convoy routes. You can see the Confederates can raid convoys between Haiti and New York. The Confederates can also raid convoys between Europe and the United, or I guess in Canada, I guess that is. There also are convoy routes basically into the Confederate South here from various Caribbean islands. What's this? Blockade runners, Charleston. Oh, so you can show blockade runner routes. So you can highlight individual different blockade runner routes. Okay. So our goal has to obviously be to interdict them, and then you've got cross overland routes between Nebraska Territory, Dakota Territory, Kansas, Wyoming, Utah, California, Idaho, and Montana all on the map here as well. So you can see like California gives 125 MPPs to us every turn, but it can be interdicted. Idaho gives us, I guess, 100 per, oh, that's mobilization. Kansas gives 5, Nebraska gives 5, Dakota gives 5, Wyoming gives 5. And various mobilization levels. You can also declare war on this map too. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Strategy map, well, we've already seen that. All right, so we need to blockade the Confederacy, and I think the best way to blockade the Confederacy is to take their ports. So one of the ways to do that is to take Fort Hatteras, because you can see here Elizabeth City feeds its blockade runners through Fort Hatteras and then out to the European places. So Fort Hatteras obviously should be an objective for us. We also have warships in the blockade zones off Norfolk, which is currently blockading, oops. Which is currently blockading Norfolk. Where are all my warships, by the way? And also it does say we place river warships to send them to the Mississippi River. It takes 3 turns. So in New York, we don't have a lot of warships along our coast. We do have a frigate here. Can you operate it? No. So we've got that 1 unit. It's gonna be hard to keep track of units on this map. It's so freaking huge. All right, let's send this frigate. I guess to the Mississippi River. I want to take New Orleans. It's probably gonna take a little while before I can do that. Okay. By the way, it also scrolls way better when I do this. All right, so we have to maintain at least 1 unit within 2 hexes of the blockade runner route out from Charleston and then also from Savannah. So let's go ahead and take this, the Wabash, and put it on the Savannah route. These guys are currently set to raid. So these guys are blocking Charleston, and Savannah are currently blockaded by the Niagara and the Wabash. Travel along the Florida coast to Key West, Florida. Okay, so you actually can move units more quickly by dropping them in these down arrow sections on the map, which are interesting. You have to keep all units at least 4 hexes away from the blockade runner ports in order to basically prevent the British from getting pissed that you're essentially just hanging off their territories. What's this? This is a river gunboat. Can I attack it? No. Huh. All right, well, let's have the Mississippi. There's 2 frigates here in southern New Orleans. So we'll set these guys to raid, put them on this New Orleans blockade route. We already have gunboats here on the Mobile. I need to get used to the controls. On the Mobile route, Fort Pickens also has a frigate. So can I attack these guys here? So there's like 3, I think, key routes for blockade. Yes, I can attack these guys. This is a timberclad gunboat. Nice. Damaged it, drove it back up the river past the forts here. All right, I can't move those guys, so we'll put them here, I guess. All right, so we've got 3 ships along the New Orleans route. We drove one of those timberclads back up the river. Actually, the Mobile route has a blockade section as well. So important to remember that sloops are in this era, the sloop is kind of the main warship. I think with the advent of exploding shells and steam power, the sloop becomes a lot more like the modern day destroyer, and the frigate kind of becomes more like a cruiser, which in sort of the Napoleonic eras, the frigate was sort of the general cruising ship, and then the sloop was a little bit undersized, and then you had the ships of the line. Really, in this era, though, the sloop had they had 100-pound shell guns with wooden warships. That was enough. So things kind of start to change in terms of traditional warship makeups around this time period. That being said, let's go ahead and start a land offensive here. Let's try and drive some of these Confederate brigades back from Alexandria, which they seem to be threatening. So go ahead and attack here. The troops don't have super effective weapons at the moment. Technology research can be done, which will make your units stronger or weaker or whatever, and better at fighting. But at least initially, I'm guessing this is representing, one, by the fact that our troops are largely undersized units. They're brigades, not divisions, not corps. But then two, they're also kind of fighting with like smoothbore weapons in a lot of cases. In any event, you can see our attacks not so effective. What's my balloon do? Does it just let me see? So we didn't even destroy this brigade. We did weaken it, but we didn't destroy it. Ah! Something else also to consider that's very important. If headquarters units get destroyed, you lose this general forever. So that's a little bit different. In the past, you could reform headquarters that were destroyed. You can no longer reform specific headquarters after they're destroyed. So I'm assuming that's representing like generals like Jackson being killed or things like that. And in terms of units, you can change the style for the naval units there. You can change the ground units. I don't know if NATO counters are an option. I don't see... Yeah, if you get rid of the 3D units, you can use the NATO counters. I like the 3D units personally, but... Okay, so this guy got pretty badly shot up. Can we move? Yeah, let's do that. It's General George B. McClellan. Also, units only have a spotting range of 1, so it leads you into a lot of battles like that where it's like you just stumble into the enemy. Let us advance into the Confederacy with gusto. NATO counters pre-NATO. Goddamn right. Also, there's not a lot of railways across the US, so like there are some, but not a lot. Let's reinforce this brigade. You can see they lose a lot of experience, but they're already not very experienced. We'll attack up the valley here. It should be Patterson, not Banks, if we're going by historical commanders. I don't have many troops yet. So we crippled 1 brigade in front of Alexandria. We did a little bit of damage to 2 brigades near Harper's Ferry. And then we're moving in toward the rear of the Shenandoah with a couple of additional brigades. Also, if you hit the S button, you can see the supplies that you're going to have. S1 is supply this turn. S2 is supply. S again, the second time, is what the supplies will be next turn. You can see here. All right. Meanwhile, you can move like headquarters units forward to try and give your units more supply. I don't know if it's important to keep them on a railhead or not. I'm going to try and get them up toward Charleston, West Virginia. Meanwhile, not a lot going on in the West, at least not in Kentucky, because they're neutral. We saw the rebels attacking Springfield. Can't even reinforce very much there. So this regiment, oh, there's regiment size units too. Those must be like the equivalent of a garrison. They're gonna pull back toward Marshfield. I mean, a regiment was a huge unit in this era anyway. Sconstanius, thanks for the follow. Fluffy92, thank you for the follow. Stars Cav, thank you for the follow. The Bitter Steel, thank you for the follow. The Dude 22, thank you for the follow. One Stranglehold 1, thank you for the follow. Alright, so Cavalry Brigade. The enemy is so that's why they were shooting us up. Okay, so we'll use our cavalry here to try and get in behind the enemy. We'll also bring a brigade up from Lebanon. We have Fremont the Trailblazer. We'll move him up to Lebanon. So next turn we will have supply forward for these guys. You're going to move up to Boulevard to block any rebel advance from this brigade. I don't know if the enemy has any troops at Joplin. I feel like cavalry is going to be important in this game because of how the line of sight works or doesn't. St. Louis. All right, so it feels like St. Louis is safe right now, but we'll leave that regiment there. Troops up, trying to secure Missouri because that's definitely a dicey proposition. We also do have a few timberclads. We can upgrade them. We can give them engines level 1, which will make them better. So we'll do that. Am I missing any units that haven't moved yet? I'm sure. We'll leave that unit in Denver. I don't really want them to move. Fort Scott, you'll stay there. Fort Baxter, stay there. Cavalry, I don't want you guys to attack yet. St. Louis, I don't want you to move yet. Cairo will keep you in position as well. Evansville Cavalry. So Evansville's not the place I want my troops to be. I'd like them to move down toward Paducah or up toward New Albany. I'll actually do that. They'll move up here so they're ready to cross the Ohio. And then I'm not going to have those guys attack in the valley. Some of these guys still have movement points, but they already fought. Let's also move this balloon forward a little bit. Oh yeah, the troops at Fort Monroe. Can they move out of here? Yeah, they can hit the fort at Williamsburg, do some damage there, then pull back. I'm going to try and force my way toward Richmond. Williamsburg's a fort, the Magruder, I guess, fort. Okay, so that's it for the turn. Gameplay Plasplex, you've been playing a lot of UGCW. There's no shock cavalry in this game. I don't think anyway. All right, so we have 850 points. We can do research, which I think is probably a good idea. So we're already investing. It looks like in infantry research. We've got ×2 already. I want to research in corps organization, but it looks like we're already researching 2 there. So the Union's already doing a pretty good job of research here. Let's also research naval tactics for 150. So that's already on level 2. Amphibious is already at level 2. Spying and intelligence is at 1. Logistics is at 2. Production's at 2. Industrial's at 2. So we can research subs. I don't need to do that. Cavalry tactics, infantry. We'll research infantry tactics. Armored trains. Get us right back to Ultimate General Civil War's armored trains. Ironclads. Oh, I'm already researching the max. We're spending 3,900 on research already. Fuck. Also, why does Mexico, like, why? I'm not Mexico. That's... All right. I'm assuming infantry tactics is like infantry weapons. And it's interesting that artillery doesn't seem to be a major thing. Huh. So actually we have 100 research available that we could still spend. Fort modernization, I don't really want to do that. Buoyancy tanks for submarines. Heavy mortars is too much. Lighthouses! Research the lighthouses! So we did the infantry tactics, right? Did we do anything else? I think we did naval as well. So we could cut back on research on one or the other of those. Balloons. We'll pass on that. All right, so let's purchase stuff then. We've got 500 points left. We can't do we have to research corps before we can build any corps, but we could research divisions. What's our production setup look like? It looks like we're going to get some naval forces here in February. An ironclad in February of 62. Got some stuff coming all the way in 63 and 64. We've got some infantry divisions coming in 61, August. So I guess let's do a division. I don't know who the division commander should be. We have a lot of choices here. Should we do Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, assuming? Or we could do General Couch. Is Hancock a corps commander in this? It doesn't even tell you who the commander is for the corps, it just numbers them. Brigades, no commander, so this is just the name, I guess, not really the commander. We'll do Barlow. Good old Barlow, I think. Or would we be better off with Marines? I feel like Marines. I want to do coastal attacks. But then there's also cavalry. I don't know what to do. We do more warships. River gunboats. What the hell do Rangers do? A mountain division. Did those exist in this era? It's interesting you get... Okay. Railroad artillery? Meh, I'm not a big railroad artillery guy. Siege artillery could be interesting. But I think we're going to do Marines. So we'll do one Marine division here, or unit. We'll do one infantry brigade, I guess. Okay, so a Marine unit and an infantry unit. And we'll end our turn. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Strategic Command, American Civil War, an upcoming strategy war game that looks at the American Civil War using the Strategic Command engine. I think I have, I mean, we're still a little early. We're basically, what, one turn in, and we're just ending our turn. And I think my initial impressions are mostly that I think the strategic element and even the operational element of this game is going to be very interesting. I do have reservations of a way on how the battles are going to be resolved. I think it's going to be very grindy, especially in the Eastern Theater. This is just my initial impressions. I've played, at the time I'm talking now, about 3 hours. I think the operational and the strategic elements are going to be really strong. There's not a lot of games that do that well. American Civil War by age odds is probably one of the few, but like, I really like sort of the huge size of the map, the need to focus on logistics, the need to focus on supply lines, the ability to make amphibious assaults a very big part of your campaign, and you should do that as well. And I think balancing like what you're spending your resources on is going to be really important. What I think the game is going to struggle with is making those battles when your armies come together feel meaningful. Especially in the Eastern Theater, it feels almost like World War I right from the start, where you just get a line of troops and you're just slugging it away nonstop for the entire game. At least up through, I'm currently in November in my game. So that doesn't feel quite on point, and I think that could be a turnoff for some folks who are really into these kind of games. That being said, I do think the way that supplies are managed, the way that headquarters are managed, the way that resources are managed, there's really only one other game like this in a modern sense, Age on Civil War II, and that is not as intuitive. That game is a bit more dated. It's not as I said, intuitive, so it's like really hard to kind of tell what's going on in that game a lot of times, and the UI isn't as straightforward about what things mean. So from a strategic and operational perspective, I think this is going to be a really solid game. We'll see. The game's not out yet. But from a tactical perspective, if you're really looking at a game that should feel tactically or even operationally in the sense the way armies move, like an American Civil War game, you're probably going to be lacking a bit. But where I think this game is unmatched is in sort of the way that you need to prioritize amphibious results, naval results, the ability to take corners of the coast, and really impact the Confederacy in that way. I don't think there's anything else like that. Even Age on Civil War, I don't think is quite up to that level. So I will definitely be playing more of this. Let me know your thoughts below. I want to know your guys' perspective on that. Do you have the same reservations as me? How do you feel about those reservations? Do they matter to you? And we'll catch you guys next time for another episode of this tomorrow. And hope you guys enjoyed. All right, I'm out.